What's up guys? So when I built this modern shed, I used T111 siding for most of the sides of the shed, but I wanted to break up the siding style for something a little more aesthetic for the front and the sides of the shed where we installed sheathing. Now, although I could have installed, vinyl siding or cedar shakes like all the other basic shed builders out there, you know who I'm talking about. I remembered that I had some leftover luxury vinyl plank flooring that I installed in my house, and I got to thinking, can you use LVP flooring as a suitable shed siding? Let's find out. What's up guys? So if you need to learn how to do any of the previous projects like framing the walls or installing the siding, you can check out my previous videos. But in this video, I'm going to go through my crazy idea to use LVP flooring instead of the traditional vinyl or cedar shakes for my shed siding. So to make this crazy idea a reality, I decided to use liquid nails adhesive and exterior rated brad nails to attach my previously purchased LVP flooring that I used in my house to the shed sheathing. So as you can see, I put construction adhesive on both the sheathing and the back of the LVP plank, and then I went and I put in a good amount of exterior rated brad nails to fasten the plank to the sheathing and the wall studs behind. Now, in addition to the construction adhesive, LVP flooring locks into place with a tongue and groove system. So as you can see here, what you do is you insert the tongue into the groove of the previously installed sheet, as you can see on the left-hand side, and then that is going to interlock, and then as you slide it into place with the other piece of LVP flooring, you can use either a hammer like you need to use for this piece of flooring, but the kind I used on the shed, it actually just fit into place without the use of a hammer. But you definitely want to make sure that your LVP planks interlock properly for a fully waterproof installation. Here you can see I'm knocking it in place to make sure it's interlocking with the previously installed plank, and then I'm fastening it permanently with the brad nails. So here we are, and we need to install the first partial piece, and in order to cut LVP, you have a couple options. First option is just measure your cut length and then transpose that onto the LVP plank, and then use a carpenter square and a utility knife to score the edge, flip it over, and then snap it along the scored edge. The other option, which is a bit more messy, is just to cut it with a miter saw, which is what I did more often than not since I was outside. But again, take your partial sheet that you just cut, install it in place, and you're going to repeat that around all the intricacies for your shed. Here, I had to cut a little bit off the bottom to get it to fit right there, and sometimes you want to install and interlock two pieces at once, which I just did. Then fasten it with brad nails. Here I am at the other side doing the exact same process. As you can see here, I'm measuring the piece that I had to rip off with the circular saw and then installing two pieces at once to make it easy. Also, if you like this video, please drop a like down below and subscribe if you want to be notified when the rest of the videos in my shed series are released. Now at this point, we're going to have to cut the LVP around the windows, which was a little bit tricky, but I just clamped the LVP plank to the table with some bar clamps, and then I cut it with a jigsaw, which made it pretty easy. Then I just installed it in place just like we did for all the rest of the planks, and then used brad nails to permanently install it. I did this for all of the areas around the windows. It was a little bit cumbersome, but it wasn't too bad once we got the hang of it. As you can see there, I needed to use a hammer and a screwdriver to get the two adjacent panels to interlock. Then I simply went and I installed the rest of the LVP on the front of the wall. After finishing the front wall, we repeated the process for the side of the shed on top of the veneer. Here we had to cut along the angle of the roof, which we did with a circular saw, and then it's just a matter of getting the individual planks to interlock and then fastening them again with the construction adhesive and the brad nails. Here I am fastening the last piece on one side. Then just repeated the exact same process for the other side of the shed. Some of the LVP planks were really hard to interlock, so I had to use a crowbar and a hammer to actually get those to set properly. It was a pain in some cases. And here I am moving on to the soffit of the shed, and this was pretty tough as well, because as you can imagine, you're working upside down on a ladder with adhesive and a brad nailer, and I think this is why so many people don't finish the underside of their shed, because it kind of sucks. A quick note here, if you need to tap a board to get it to interlock with an adjacent board, you can use a scrap piece and a hammer as kind of a tapping block. That way the groove will fit inside the tongue and you can kind of tap it in without damaging the LVP. And here I am installing the final few pieces of LVP veneer on the underside of the soffit on the front of the shed. Now for the side of the shed here, you can see that I didn't actually cut the pieces of LVP to size. I just let them be a little bit long. Then I simply used a chalk line to mark the cut line along the roof rafter, and then I ran my circular saw along that line upside down. I used a respirator and obviously eye protection here. This was kind of a pain, but it went by pretty quick. In hindsight, I might have just cut them to size beforehand. Now, although LVP is inherently waterproof, I went and I waterproofed all the edges with caulk. I used black caulk around the black trim, and then I used this tan/almond caulk that I found at Home Depot where the walls met the soffit. And here's a quick look at the final result. Now, I understand this is an unconventional approach to shed siding, so definitely leave comments down below about your concerns, comments, thoughts, questions on longevity and how it's holding up. I'll be sure to answer all of those. And if you like this type of content, please drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified for my next video, which will be the roll-up door installation as you're seeing now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.